Hello, everyone. I am Julianne McCurris, formerly Julianne Meyer, and this is the first live I've done since I got married. So, yay. So, if some of the shows seem a little bit out of order, it's because they were pre recorded. So, just a heads up. But I am excited. I'm excited to be here today, and we have an amazing guest. So, let me just bring her on. Alana, welcome to the show. So glad you could make it today.
Hi, Julianne. So nice to be here. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on your marriage.
Thank you. Yep, we're 6 weeks in, 6 weeks in a day. So it is brand new. And I got my first just because present in the mail from him today that he ordered for me. So he's doing really well. But
Good for
anyway, we're
him.
going to
Good.
talk about that. You are an amazing soul, and I am so excited to have you here today. My first question is always to tell a bit about yourself and your own wellness journey. And I think that will give people an idea of what we can expect to learn from you and feel empowered, all the fun stuff. So go for it. Tell us a bit about you.
Sure. So my name is Alana Van Der Sluys, and I'm the founder of Freedom with Food and Fitness, where I coach women how to be intuitive eaters, how to get rid of the guilt and shame with their bodies and with their food and their weight, so that they can just live their lives unapologetically, guilt-free, effortlessly, so that they're not worried about a dress size. They can chase dreams that actually matter to them. But I wasn't always this way. I wasn't always an intuitive eater. I suffered a lot in my 20s with 3 undiagnosed eating disorders that nobody flagged because I just looked like I was the thin, fit one. And people were praising me, asking me how what I did to look the way that I did. And nobody really realized that it was a whole lot of mental, emotional, and physical disorder that was happening beneath the surface.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I happen to work, for those of you who don't know, I happen to work in addiction recovery. And one of the things we're always taught is to never, ever, ever talk about the way somebody looks because you don't know what's actually going on with them. And I think that is such an important point because you have no idea how that person looks the way that they do and what's going on up here, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of these things. So I'd love for you to sort of explain a little bit more about what that could mean to other people.
Sure. I mean, when you compliment somebody's weight loss or anything about their weight, whether it's positive or negative, and like, you really don't know what's going on. If they've gained weight, it could be part of a recovery journey. This could be their moment to really step into who they are. And you dampen that if you criticize the weight gain. It could be a medication. It could be something like PCOS. And then on the other side of that, it could be an eating disorder. It could be depression. It could be um, cancer, it could be all of these different things. So instead of complimenting weight loss, I always say, what else could you compliment about them that really speaks to who they are as a person? And if you want to do an aesthetic compliment their shoes, their dress, anything else other than body size or the weight.
I love that. I read something online because it's always truthful. If it's online, but I read something the other day that I thought was really brilliant, and it was talking about giving compliments. And the point wasn't about don't compliment somebody's weight loss or gain, but always the ones that hit the hardest or the best, the most, and the most amazing are the ones that are about who you are, how you
Mhm.
show up. And I thought that was very true because, somebody's smile, for example, or, that they held the door open, thank you for being so thoughtful. Those are,
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with appearance. It's just how you're being, which obviously, in my opinion, is more important. I'm assuming that that's kind of what you're getting at as well.
100%. I actually have a really good girlfriend of mine who just picked up running. She's doing 5Ks, and she's lost weight because of it, a noticeable amount of weight. But when I saw her last, even in my mind, it was like the first thing I noticed. But I was like, okay, I don't want to compliment the weight loss, even though I knew she was trying to lose weight. But I didn't compliment the weight loss. I just said, I really love that you found this passion, this thing that you're really passionate about, and you have community around. And I love to see you happy and thriving. That was the compliment.
I love that because it encompasses that too. And like you said, she is trying to lose weight, but there's such a slippery slope too when it comes to eating disorders and disordered eating habits and things like that, where you could be perfectly healthy and maybe trying to lose a few pounds, but it can switch so quickly into something that's negative for the person that is actually trying to do something good for themselves. So I know that you teach a lot about intuitive eating, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that because I mean it's a term that's talked about, but I don't know that people necessarily understand what that means.
Oh yeah, Julianne, there's like a ton of misconceptions around intuitive eating, especially if you're just kind of reading about it here and there on social media. It can be confused with a lot of other things that it's not. So, what intuitive eating is, I mean, as the name suggests, at the heart of it, it's how to eat intuitively, but it also includes movements, how to move your body in a way that is intuitive and that feels good to you. So, bottom line, with intuitive eating, we want you to feel good in your body. So we listen to things like hunger and fullness cues. When are you hungry? Honoring that hunger, not just drinking black coffee because you're trying to lose weight, right? You're not overriding those cues that your body's trying to give you for nourishment. You stop when you're full. You tap into your emotions so you can figure out when you're emotionally eating or binge eating. It's scientifically validated, right? There's over 100 studies date on the benefits of intuitive eating. A lot of the benefits are things that we look for when we're actually dieting. Like when we're dieting, we want to, reduce our risk of heart disease and lower our cholesterol and improve our energy levels. All of those things the science is showing us can be achieved through intuitive eating, as opposed to diets, which there are no long-term scientific studies that show that dieting works after the 5-year mark. 95% of diets fail.
Exactly, because when you stop doing the thing, it's kind of
Thank
like
you. Yeah, that's what I
you
try to
just
tell
have
people. You lost X amount of pounds on keto, great, but once you stop keto, that's all gonna come back. So you have to pick a way of eating and moving your body that is sustainable for the rest of your life. So you have to choose what that is for you.
Yes, absolutely. And, something else that I love to talk about, and I kind of just want to touch on right now, is this idea of, picking something because it worked for your friend and not listening because, I don't happen to eat meat, and that's a personal choice and a private choice and all of these things. But when somebody saw me losing weight and they thought, "Oh, I'm gonna do what she does," I'm like, "But you're a meat eater, so what I do doesn't actually make sense for you." Do you notice that a
Absolutely.
lot of people try and do that as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's 'cause everyone's looking for like the magic pill or the magic meal plan that's going to give them the perfect body, but it just doesn't work like that. We're all so different that like 80% of body size and shape is genetic. So what I eat, how I move my body, if somebody else were to do exactly that same thing, they're not going to have the same body as me. They're not going to weigh the same as me. They're not going to feel the same way that I feel. Certain foods don't agree with me. Like kale
Mhm.
doesn't agree with my system. It's too rough on my digestive system. For somebody else, it's a superfood. For me, it's super uncomfortable. So everybody's different. So I feel like with intuitive eating, one thing I love about it is you approach food and movement from a place of curiosity and experimentation for you and what's good for you. Because what's good for you might not be good for somebody else and vice versa. So it's honoring your unique kind of genetic roadmap.
Amen to that, and speaking of kale, I hate kale. Like I I mean, it's fine for my system, but I can't stand it. So I don't need to eat it. There are so many other choices out there that I don't have to suffer because there's so many other healthier, choices out there that I can enjoy and still that I like. I think that's another misconception too, is this idea that you have to eat all these things that you absolutely hate.
Yeah, because that's not going to leave you feeling satisfied. If you eat egg whites and cauliflower rice and kale all day, every day, you're not, you're going to be full. which is the physical sensation of satiety, but you're not going to feel satisfied, which is the mental sensation of satiety. You're still going to be like looking for that thing to kind of round out the meal or make it feel like it's finished or give you that like, that really hit the spot factor. And that's what leads a lot of people to constantly graze and eventually binge on food, is because they're not eating foods that satisfy them. They're just eating like the low calorie, high volume foods that they think are going to help them lose weight.
Yes, this is so true. And, something else that I'm hearing kind of from you as well is this idea, at least this is my idea, is demonizing food. Like, this is what I have to eat, and that's a bad food, and that's a good one. And, making these judgments on certain foods. And to me, there's a huge difference between a food like substance and actual food, yet, and we could talk about that. But like, if it's my dad's 78th birthday and he's having cake, and I'm not diabetic, it's not evil if I have a piece of cake to celebrate his life with him.
100%, 100%. We've fallen into this trap that food is fuel. And if we see it like that, it doesn't become fun anymore. And I think part of food is culture and celebration. And we shouldn't fear including food in that way. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said that too, because I used to live in Europe, and there, they technically eat all these bad for you foods, or that we would deem bad for you, and yet everybody's thin and everybody is healthy for the most part. And it's part of it is because they don't overdo it, and part of it's because they don't have like the stress related to eating all of these so-called things that are bad for them. So I love this idea of, instead of it just being fuel, to incorporate the idea of it being cultural as well. So thank you for saying that. I love that. Do you have any other thoughts about food, just in general, that maybe you wish that other people would take into consideration when they're thinking about it?
Absolutely. And this is, I was going to say this is such a radical concept, but it really shouldn't be a radical concept. This idea, we need to start allowing all foods. We need to bring back into our diets our fear foods, the foods we're most fearful of overdoing it with and binging with and overeating, because as humans, we're hardwired to want what we can't have. So when we put foods on a pedestal, oh, I can't have that. Oh, that's too many calories. Oh, that's too much sugar. All we want to do is have that food because we're not allowing it. There was a study done with children. There were two groups of children. One group was told they could have all the red and all the yellow M&Ms they wanted. The other group was told they could only have the yellows. They could not have the reds. That was the group that had the most reds, the one that was told they couldn't have it. And the kicker about the whole thing is that we know M&Ms all taste the same anyway, but it's just having that seed planted that you can't have something makes you want it more. So with intuitive eating, the third principle is allowing all foods, which sounds crazy because you're like, oh my God, all I would ever do is eat pizza and ice cream and processed foods. But the crazy thing about it, it's almost like reverse psychology. When you actually tell yourself, I can have this food whenever I want, you might eat a little more of it in the beginning of an intuitive eating journey, but eventually you're like, okay, all right, it's not that special. I can have it whenever I want. And the way that I like to relate this, in a non-food way is when you have a partner and you're newly married. So this might resonate with you. When you're with a new partner and they say, I love you for the first time, you're like, like your heart starts beating really fast. You get the butterflies, you feel the excitement. And then, I've been with my husband for 10 years. So he's like, I love you. I'm like, yeah, I love you too. And I mean it. And I still love him with all my heart. But it's like, it doesn't elicit that same butterfly reaction that it used to because I'm so used to it. In the same way, you become used to the foods that you allow yourself. So they become no big thing.
No, and I love that analogy, and because it is so true. It's like the newness wears off and the novelty. It's not that you don't enjoy it. It's not that it isn't true anymore, but it doesn't have that that extra oomph to it, like you mentioned, And it's funny
Absolutely.
because my husband loves, perfect bars. He loves perfect bars. I mean, he'll probably eat one a day. I mean, that's his coffee treat because he loves coffee and he's super healthy. I mean, physically. And so if he wants to eat a perfect bar and that's his dessert, go for it. I mean, the grand scheme of things, it's not even that bad. But I mean, as far as conventional thoughts. But for me, a perfect bar is such a treat because I hardly ever eat them. I'm like, wow, this is the most delicious thing I've had and I don't even know how long because I don't typically eat them. I don't eat them every day. So to me, it's almost like a dessert and I totally enjoy it on this whole other level. I mean, it's still good, but
Absolutely.
I love that
That's,
analogy.
yeah, well, it's so funny because, when I used to go on vacation, we go down the Jersey Shore every year as a family, and like one of the biggest highlights of that vacation with me would be going out for the ice cream, and I would get like a huge scoop and I would eat the whole thing. It was like the one time I was allowed to have like the real ice cream. Now I have ice cream probably 3 to 4 times a week at night, and it's just like I don't overdo it. I don't have a lot that makes me feel sick. I just have and then I'm able to let it go, and sometimes I forget that I have chocolate in the back of the cupboard because I know I can have it whenever, and it's not like this thing I have to eat all at once. It's so much better when you just ease the grip and the control and you allow all the foods. Again, they like you said, the newness wears off eventually.
Exactly. And that's how it is for me for me, my addicted food, because there's one for me and it's cheese. I love cheese and I think about it. If it's in the fridge, I want to eat it. Um, but I finally gotten to the point now where I can have it in the refrigerator and not eat it because it's almost always there now. And so I appreciate that. Same thing with ice cream. If I only have it and I only allow it, and I don't keep it, then I will overeat it guaranteed because I'm thinking I gotta get it. This is my one opportunity.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
we do need to go to a commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. But before we go, I just wanted to say that I know you have this book and we're going to be talking about that when we come back because I'm really excited to hear more about that because oh, yeah, people wait until you hear about it. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And I haven't said hello to anybody who's here live except for in the messages, but I do want to say hello to everybody who's watching us live. It is a pleasure to have you here. As I mentioned, it is time for us to go to commercials, so we will be right back in just a few moments.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest Alana back to the show. Welcome back. So, first of all, I have to toot your horn for you because you're not going to do it. So, not only are you an author, but you're a TEDx speaker, correct?
I am.
I would love for you to share a little bit about what that experience was like for you. And then we definitely need to talk about this book of yours, because that is the main reason why we are here today. We got to get the word out. You're helping people. And how else can you do that if we don't tell people about how they can find your book? So, why don't we just start with that, and then we'll talk about TEDx.
Cool. Okay. Well, first of all, we are 99 days until book release, but who's counting, right? So we are full steam ahead on the pre-order train. So my book is called Freedom with Food and Fitness, and it's going to be published through Urano Publishing. It'll come out on November 14th of this year, so 99 days from now. And it's a really approachable, easy to understand guide on how to feel healthy and confident in your body without another diet or without intentionally losing weight. So within the book, I provide dozens of practical and really actionable tips on how to create nutrition fitness goals that aren't based on how you look or require any diet. And the book also has a lot of real, raw, vulnerable stories about my own journey from, multiple eating disorders to full recovery. So the book gives you steps on how to realistically meet your goals so that you can feel healthy and energetic and vibrant without having to count every single calorie or step on the scale every single day. And what separates this book from the others that are out there in the intuitive eating niche is I focus on food and fitness equally to help anyone who wants to create a happier, more confident version of themselves.
I love that. As a personal trainer and a nutrition coach, I think that both of them are equally important. And I love that, though, because for me, it's not so much, about the losing weight or the physical goals of working out. It helps me with my mental wellness. It really helps me just to be mentally healthier. So I really, people don't talk about that enough. The benefits.
Well, that's the thing. I noticed in the intuitive eating space, so joyful movement is what we call it in intuitive eating. It's finding movement that you really enjoy so that you'll stay consistent with it. It's one of 10 principles of intuitive eating, but no one's freaking talking about it. Nobody is getting it the limelight that it needs because we always talk about diet and exercise together. So I wanted to make the book half and half, and I just wanted it to feel very conversational, very raw, very vulnerable, like one girlfriend telling another, hey, this was my journey. This is how I got from point A to point B. And I think these would be really helpful for you too.
I love that. And I love this idea of it doesn't even have to be the gym. I'm a personal trainer by trade and I hate going to the gym. I'm not supposed to say that. And I'll help other people who want to go, but like getting me to go, I literally have to have a trainer. Otherwise, I will not work out in the gym. I will go out and run outside. I will walk my dog. I'll do all dancing, all sorts of fun things that are movement.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I haven't stepped inside of a gym since 2017. Like it's not my jam. I just want to get in, get out. I have a 3-year-old, so I just do it when he's sleeping in the morning. And like I get half an hour in, and that's all I got in me. That's all I got in my schedule. But it keeps me healthy. It keeps my stress levels down. It gives me endorphins. It feels really good.
Yes, the endorphins. I love that. Yeah, me too. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be diet. It doesn't have to be, weightlifting at the gym, trying to pump iron and get those, pecs and, biceps and all that. It doesn't have to look like that. But, You know what does feel good? When you feel good in your skin and you have enough energy to make it through the day without having to hit up the coffee, you know,
Yeah.
all these things that we don't ever seem to talk about. It's kind of like, and this is kind of what you touched on before. When you were younger, you might have looked fabulous, but how are you actually feeling in your own body? How is that actually
Horrible.
really for you, And I just feel like if you're going to live, you should feel good in your home, which is your body.
And what's crazy about it is only 6% of people with eating disorders would be categorized as underweight. Everybody, 94% of people with eating disorders are walking around normal weight, overweight, or obese. It's not this thin, frail person. I was in the normal BMI category for the majority of my eating disorder, but I didn't feel physically or mentally well. Food was always top of mind for me. My weight was always top of mind for me. That daily morning weigh-in would set the tone for the rest of my day. It was just this all-consuming pillar of my self-worth. And if, for all those people who are listening that think that they would be happier, healthier, more confident in a thinner body, I am living proof that at my lowest weight, I don't talk about numbers very often because I know they can be triggering, but I'm about to throw this out just for perspective. I'm 5'4". I remember in my bathroom, I weighed myself as 100 pounds.
Whoa.
And I still hated what I saw. And it was one of a couple of light bulb moments I had that made me realize I had to recover. I was like, how much thinner could I possibly get before I love myself? And the answer was I couldn't. Like I couldn't. There was no number that was going to make me happy with myself until I did the inner work I needed to do to make myself happy with myself.
And I love that you shared that because people, and it's not even just weight, there's always that elusive carrot that we're chasing somewhere in our lives. Like, once I have this, then I'll feel this. It does not work like that. It's like chasing a rainbow, expecting to find the pot of gold. It keeps moving.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? That's been my whole life. And that was part of what created the eating disorder. Was in school, I had always got A's. I always was top of the class. I excelled I danced ballet and tap jazz. I was good at that. I was always good at things. I always had these markers of self-worth and external validation. And when I graduated grad school at 22, all of a sudden I didn't know how to, like, quote unquote, rank myself in the real world. And I felt very out of control and untethered and didn't know where to hang the hat of my self-worth anymore. So I thought I could achieve it with thinness. And that was a slippery slope, but I'm a perfectionist. When I got my book deal, I was happy for like a couple of days. And then I was like, what's the next thing? And then I was like, oh my God, that is not a good way to live your life. Like, if you're not enjoying the journey, you're never going to enjoy, getting to the top of or achieving whatever you want to achieve.
That's one of my favorite sayings is, if you don't, how do you expect to enjoy the destination if you don't enjoy the journey? And I mean, it's true. There's so many things that I think, and I've had these so-called big achievements as well. And it lasted, like, I got that initial buzz, and then it's like, meh.
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that. I'm glad I'm not alone.
It's like being an adrenaline junkie. I need the next fix,
Exactly. So yeah, whatever you're pursuing, if you're not enjoying the journey to get there, it's not worth the end result, because you're just going to want something else after it.
And here's the thing too that I don't always share, because it's a little weird coming from somebody like me, but I've experienced a lot of loss, and I've lost a lot of people who died at really young ages. I mean, what you would consider before their time, in their 40s and their 30s, or even younger. And the thing that I've learned is, and even just because of that, it made me really sensitive to the journey of life and being like in the moment, because you never know when you're going to get, when it's going to be your last one. But the thing that really got me one time was, I was living in Jersey, And I had this boyfriend that I adored. And, we broke up, and it was 100% my fault. And I take 100% responsibility for it. But here's the thing, I was always complaining about where we lived. And I was never happy. We were together for like 10 years. And I was never satisfied because I always wanted something different than what was going on. And the second that it was going to be taken away from me, which would have been a blessing, if it's kind of like that whole idea, life's a bitch and then you die. Well, how does that work? Shouldn't you be happy? But as soon as I thought it was taken away from me, I really realized what I'd had that entire time. And I was like, oh my goodness. If only I'd appreciated it while I was living it and experiencing it while I was living it, because this was actually really good. And I was just completely unsatisfied because I'm a perfectionist and it didn't look the way I thought it should.
Oh, you're preaching in the choir with that perfectionism, because that is my Achilles heel. That is something that at least it's not in my weight and my food choices anymore, but it's still a work in progress to release that control and realize that, self-worth isn't wrapped up in things looking exactly the way that you think they're going to. But yeah, I have clients in their 60s who said, I thought when I was in my 20s, I looked horrible in my 20s. And then I got to my 40s and I was like, oh, I want to look like I looked when I was in my 20s. And then I got to my 60s and I was like, oh, I want to look like how I looked in my 40s. It's like, you were never happy with your body because your body was never the issue. It was always your thoughts about your body that were the problem. So that's what has to be rewired. And that's what I do with my clients. I mean, yeah, it's logistically, nutrition and fitness. We talk about all those things, but a lot of it is also the mindset piece.
It really is. I mean, you can do all the perfect things. You can do all that and still be completely unhappy. So what does it look like to work with you?
So I offer virtual group coaching. So I have clients here with me in the state of New Jersey, all the way to Australia, which is wonderful to kind of have this work help women all over the globe, but also to kind of connect us in realizing we all struggle with the same issues. So I have mostly group coaching. It's a signature program called Defy the Diet. So it's 10 weeks long. You get module videos and worksheets and guided meditations and a Facebook group community. And then if you want the higher ticket packages, I can provide one-on-one group coaching as well, text message support. So it's a very well-rounded program. You get everything you need to really, rewire your brain, boost your confidence, understand how to approach nutrition in a way that works for you and your unique needs. Same thing with fitness. So it's kind of for everything that you need.
I love that. And for those people that are watching, I want to toot the horn of group coaching, because people don't understand the value of being in a group with other people. You learn from each other. It's the sense of I'm not alone, and the camaraderie, and other people have the same sort of issues that you do. So it's kind of nice to know you're not alone in that.
Absolutely.
Borrowed benefits is what it's called when you learn from other people.
Absolutely. I actually just got off a group coaching call with my ladies just before. And, a lot of times someone will say something or have a question or talk about a struggle that they're having, and somebody else will jump in and be like, oh yeah, I was wondering about that too. It's like sometimes you don't even realize what you're struggling with until you have somebody else verbalize it. So it's a wonderful community. So anybody who is a binge eater, an emotional eater, a high achiever who's dealing with perfectionism with nutrition and fitness, anybody who wants to have a guilt-free relationship with food, stop feeling so crazy around it, my program is for you.
I love that. I just think that is so needed. And this idea, because for me, I was never diagnosed with an eating disorder. However, I did the whole thing where I didn't eat, and I would take laxatives, and I did the over exercise. I did all of that. And you can't tell me that that's normal. I'm sorry, it's not. And, even to this day, I cannot count calories. It is way too dangerous for me. It's like that slippery slope where all of a sudden I'm obsessing over food. It should never, ever be the thing that I'm thinking about, like breath, you know?
Amen. But you know what? I'll throw another statistic at you. They say 20 to 25% of people who start diets end up with an eating disorder at some point in their lives. And it's really scary because even if you don't have an eating disorder, you might exhibit symptoms of disordered eating. Anytime you are counting calories or, exercising more to make up for food that you've eaten or skipping breakfast in order to save your calories for later, that is all elements of disordered eating. Anytime you try to use external rules or tools like MyFitnessPal or anything like that, you're not listening to the innate wisdom of your body. A lot of times you're ignoring the cues for the sake of weight loss because you think that's going to make you healthy. But like I said, it's a very slippery slope into some very troubling, symptoms and behaviors.
It absolutely is. And I just think that that is so important because we normalize these types of things that people do. We normalize the counting that, I have 1,200 calories and I can't go over. And, this whole idea of macros and micros and all. I'm not saying that nutrition isn't important. What I'm saying is that when you break it down into science, it's no longer food anymore, then to me, it's just wrong. We are taking out this innate ability of our bodies to tell us what we need and when we need it.
Exactly. And I like to say what is common is not necessarily what is normal. It has become very common for women to be pursuing weight loss as if that is just part of the burden that us as women have to bear simply by being a woman. We have to sit down, shut up, be quiet, be small, not only physically, but also, in our careers, mentally. Like we've been told to be put in this box and be a good girl. And part of being that good girl is being attractive, and being attractive in the society is being thin. So a lot of it is just comes from people pleasing and wanting to be the good girl. But also, like you said, intuitive eating is not a free for all, letting yourself go, quote unquote, not caring about your health. It's all about caring about your health, but it's caring about not only your physical health, but also your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. We talk about macronutrients. We talk about how to create a balanced meal. And we talk about different ways to move and challenge your body, but it's done in such a more flexible and fluid way than diets, which are so rigid and all or nothing thinking.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And I am so guilty of the all or nothing thinking. So I can't really, I can relate, but it just makes life so much more enjoyable when you can let go of the reins a little bit and live in the gray and
Absolutely.
really enjoy things on a much, instead of trying to be so rigid about everything. Life is it can be hard enough as it is. Why are we making it harder for ourselves? I've never really understood why I do that from time to time, and I catch myself still, but yeah, I like this idea of intuitive eating. Yes. We do need to go to one more commercial break, so we're going to be back in just a minute. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk a little bit more about actually how to tell the difference between intuitive eating and and not turning it into a free-for-all, because I know myself included might be like this idea of, well, I need to eat that piece of chocolate cake without realizing that that's a stress response. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest back. Alana, welcome back to the show. So glad to have you here today. It's been such a fun conversation. So, as we were going to commercial, I was saying this thing about like chocolate cake and intuitive eating. And, I think what I'm curious, or I think the audience would be most curious about is how hard is it? And how long does it take to sort of figure out? And I know everybody's different, but is there a way to sort of tell the difference between I'm just kidding myself versus I actually, this is something that my body needs or my soul needs or whatever the case may be when it comes to intuitive eating?
Sure. So, I think the first step to healing your relationship to all foods, including something like, let's say, the chocolate cake, right, is to allow it, I would say, I usually tell my clients, pick one fear food at a time, pick one fear food, let's say chocolate cake, eat a little bit of it every day for a month. I'm not saying you have to eat a whole chocolate cake every day for a month. I'm saying maybe a couple of bites, maybe a small sliver, just so you can, what we call habituate it, right? This idea of habituation. We give a stimulus over and over and over again until we don't really have a response to it. By day 30, you will probably not have the same insane pull for chocolate cake that you did on day one because you've habituated it, you've normalized it. Once you normalize a food and you truly trust that you can have that food at whenever you want, and you're not going to start restricting it again, then you can start bringing in elements of what we call gentle nutrition, starting to ask yourself, okay, do I really like the chocolate cake? Because you might find out you might not like it that much because you were just eating it and craving it because you weren't allowing yourself to have it. So one, do I really like the chocolate cake? And number two, and this is the real key to gentle nutrition, how do I feel after I eat the chocolate cake? So I'll give you an example for me. I like fried foods. They're delicious. They do not agree with my body. I don't know what oil they're typically fried. I have indigestion for like 3 days after I have anything that's fried. So although I find it delicious, I have to say to myself, all right, that sounds great on the menu, but do I really want to deal with indigestion I'm going to have for the next 3 days? And the answer is no. Typically, there's something else I can find on the menu that's agree with my digestive system way better, that's still going to be delicious and leaving me feel satisfied. So you get to start being really picky about the foods that make you feel really good and the foods that really don't. And that's why I think intuitive eaters overall eat more healthfully than dieters, because we've made peace with all the foods and now we've gone through the process of weeding out what feels good to us and what doesn't.
Exactly. And that's like me and ice cream. I love ice cream and I will still eat it every once in a while. But ice cream does not love me. So when I eat it, I know full well that I'm probably not going to feel great afterwards. And I will consciously make that choice every once in a while. Is that a good choice? Probably not, but I still, I'm doing it knowing. And I'm
Right.
okay.
And the thing is, when you allow it, maybe you don't, maybe you have just a little bit of it so that you don't get that huge reaction. And when you do have it, knowing that you're going to have it, knowing that you're going to savor it and enjoy it and not feel guilty about it, and then just kind of move on with your day.
Exactly, exactly. It doesn't have to be the whole pint. It doesn't have to be the whole cake. It doesn't have to be the whole bag of chips. It could.
Yeah. And I think also tapping into why you want it, I think is really important. I think for a
Mhm,
lot of people, they rely on eating as a way to numb out from emotions that they don't want to feel. We are
mhm.
a society who, we've been taught since we were little kids to not feel negative emotions. Negative emotions mean that something's gone wrong. So as adults, we try to stuff, negative feelings down with food. So, and I'm not saying that emotional are wrong. I like to say it's a valid thing to do, but you should approach it consciously. Like if I want to sit down and have a cookie because I had a really long day, I'm doing it not from a reactive perspective or like a knee-jerk reaction, but from like a conscious, okay, this is what I'm going to do to make myself feel better. And I also have other tools in my emotional coping mechanism kit. I don't have to solely rely on that emotional eating.
I like that. And it takes away that bad, behavior. It's kind of like making friends with all of you versus trying to make parts of you wrong for wanting to do things. I love that because it just, if you, it goes back to the whole idea. If you're not allowed to do something because it's considered a bad behavior, then what are you going to want to do?
Exactly, exactly. And actually, I'm looking at the comments that are coming in. Someone just said, "I need more water." That's another thing I kind of want to tell the audience is that we focus so much on weight loss for health, as if that's the gold standard and the most important thing when it comes to your health. When in reality, it's not. A lot of my clients say they want to lose weight because they want to feel better in their bodies. And I say,
Mhm.
okay, well, is it really the weight loss that's going to make you feel better? Or is it the fact that you're going to be increasing your fiber and your fruit and your veggies and your lean meats or proteins, rather?
Mhm.
Is it going to be that you're sleeping better, drinking more water? There's so many healthful behaviors that we could be incorporating that may lead to weight loss as a byproduct, but it's not the weight loss itself that's going to make you feel better. It's all the healthful behaviors that you're going to start incorporating that's going to make you feel
Mhm.
better.
Well, exactly. I mean, here's the thing is, we've all been sick. We've all had colds and the flu and all these things, and we just don't feel good in our own bodies. So imagine if, we were eating things that felt good and we felt great. And I like this idea because it just makes it more, I like to gamify just about everything that I might not find fun. And because I've had issues with food in the past, if I can gamify it and make it like, okay, how could this be fun? Then it just makes it easier for me to not take it so seriously.
Right. And I mean, listen, like, we're not here for very long. Like you said, you've lost people before their time. We're not guaranteed to we're 80. So do you really want to spend this one precious life you have so worried about the number on the scale? Or do you want to take that time and money and energy and place it into something that's going to make you feel proud at the end?
Exactly, exactly. Well, we are running low on time. We only have about 4 minutes left. Is there anything that you want to make sure that you mention that maybe you haven't, or reiterate something?
Yeah, I'll reiterate where people can find me. I see it at the bottom of the screen now,
Mhm.
freedomwithfoodandfitness.com. If you want to hop on a discovery call and talk about my signature program, Defy the Diet, again, it is virtual. It's an intuitive eating coaching program. I would love to have as many people as possible in that program to heal their relationship to food and their bodies. I also have free resources there. I'm on Instagram mostly at Freedom with Food and Fitness, so you can come say hi to me. And the book is available for pre-order. The book is called Freedom with Food and Fitness. So it comes out November 14th, but again is on pre-order. So if you want to head over to Amazon and pre-order the book now, it really, really helps in terms of telling Amazon that it's an important book that more people should read. So show it to more people. And I would just be so grateful. And I hope you get some nugget of wisdom that speaks to you and that resonates and really helps you on your journey.
And I like that because reading is so powerful, and just this idea that you have stories in there as well so that people feel connected to it, not just being facts. They can relate to that and understand that this is just a way of being versus the diet that we were trying to get away from, that whole concept of a diet. And so I just want to say thank you so much because, what you're doing is really important. And I just love how you're changing the relationship with people and food. I mean, it is fuel, yes, but it doesn't have to be just that. And it can be so much more and fun. And it doesn't have to be something that you're fighting with constantly.
Absolutely. There's so many better things you could be doing with your life and still be healthy.
Exactly. And real quick before we go, I had mentioned your TED Talk. We only have like a minute or so left, but what was that about, real quick, and where can people find it?
So they could go to they could just go to the TEDx website and it'll be there. It's called Why the Wellness Industry is Elitist. So it's all about how we have to redefine our definition of health to be more inclusive for people who don't fit the typical, thin blonde woman with the yoga mat in one hand and the green juice in the other. It can mean so many more things. It looks so many different ways.
I love that. I love that because it is very true. So one more time, I want to pop your website up here so that people can find you. And as you mentioned, don't forget, got to go to Amazon, pre-order. Let's support Alana and support yourselves. That's what we're here.
Absolutely.
We're here to own your wellness, right?
Yes. Health without obsession. That is the tagline.
Exactly. I love that. All right. Well, Alana, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute pleasure spending time with you and, enlightening people so that they can make friends with themselves and food.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Julianne.
Thank you. And everyone, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you for being here. We will be back on Thursday. So enjoy the rest of your week and we'll see you soon.